Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Sapphire 7950 card. I've got the box in front of me. You may have seen pictures of these floating around on Tinternet about everything. It's just the normal, it's a normal 7950 but with a aftermarket cooler on it. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything that really makes it stand out. It's the Overclock edition, and it does come with the trick software. The Overclock basically means that essentially there's a bit more on the memory and an extra 100 megahertz on the graphics card core itself. But what I'm going to do is we'll have a quick look at it now, going to do all the benchmarks and gameplay and everything, and then we'll get everything concluded right at the end. Right then peeps, first look at the Sapphire card. As you can see, well, you probably can't, but it has actually got a blue PCB just like the HIS card did. But it's got those two fans in the middle, and then a total of 6 heat pipes, I do believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 it looks like, I do apologise. And they all look like 6mm heat pipes. But the thing I like about this the most, this is quite, it looks, only way I can explain it really is it looks a bit Batman, doesn't it? The way that you've got the points and stuff coming out the back and it's all angular and black, it does make me think of Batman. It probably would make quite a good graphics card in a Batman themed build, even just out the box. Now I'm just moving the camera up so you can have a look from above. It's just a normal 2 6-pin style card. Obviously you can't really see the Sapphire logo there. I didn't want to show you the cards too much because you can go to the main review on Overclock 3D to see all the pictures of it up close if you're really that bothered about it. But you can obviously see in our test rig, as long as I stop kicking the tripod, you can see it in our test rig, all running lovely. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get ready and show you or try and demonstrate the fan speed, noise and thermal performance. Right then peeps, on the right hand side you can see I've got I've got 2 lots of GPU-Z open. On the right hand side I've set this to record all the maximums, and on the left hand side I've set this to just be the current temperatures. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Unigine now for about 30 minutes, and then when we exit Unigine, on this side it will record all the maximums, but this side is the one you want to watch as the fan speeds will start to come down, the temperatures will start to come down, so it's just a good way of you being able to compare the two. I will also give you a shot of Unigine while everything's still running so that you can hear the fan speeds at their max, or the max that they will run during the test, and then when we quit Unigine you'll also be able to hear them spinning back down again. Right then peeps, we've had Unigine running now for a good 30 minutes. I'm just going to put the microphone near the card so that you can hear the fans, and then keep an eye on Unigine because you'll see as we quit it out you'll be able to hear the fans spin and slow down again. Right, but I'm going to move you over near the card now. Right, I'm not going to bother leaving the microphone there for too much longer because the maximum we've seen the fan speed go up to, as you can see on the right hand side, is 39% with a maximum temperature of 56 degrees Celsius. We've already, on the left hand side, you can see that the fan speed's now dropped back to 30% and we're already back to 44 degrees Celsius. This Sapphire card, the cooler on it is absolutely brilliant. Really, really good. I'm massively impressed with this. I'm not going to say too much about it now though because I want to move on to the benchmarks and do some gameplay, and I'll talk about it all in the conclusion. Right then peeps, on to the first of our benchmarks, and as I've done with the other 7950 reviews, I'm going to do this with screenshots because this is the quickest way for me to be able to explain stuff to you without having to cut the camera in and out. So on the left hand side you can see the stock score for the Sapphire card. which was just shy of 7,000 P score. On the right hand side, that is a stock 7970 result, and that's 8,205. So there's about 1,200 points between the two. Now, if I show you the overclock that we put on, now this was using the Sapphire Tricks software that comes with the card. We managed to move the core up to 1150. Then the memory we got up to 1450, and that was with a GPU voltage of what's being read here as 1200. Like I said, this comes with the Sapphire software itself. Please remember that, okay, you can use this as a guide for your card, but remember the silicon lottery. This may not work for your card, and yours may be unstable. It also your card may go further, so please try and remember that. But yeah, these are the settings that we're using for all of the benchmarks throughout this portion of the review, but the games we'll be playing with the card at stock. But anyway, if we minimize that, and then what I'll do is I'll open when we apply those clocks and then rerun Vantage. So, Vantage, sorry, 3D Mark 11. So we get a rather enormous boost, and the overclocked 7950 results go up to 9,222, which puts it over 1,000 3D Mark points in front of the 7970. I know we're comparing a stock and overclocked card, but it's just to give you a rough idea of what you can do if you want to put a bit of time in to overclocking. Anyway, what we're going to do now is move on to 3D Mark 11 X score. Right then guys, onto the X score for 3D Mark 11. So we've got on the left hand side the 7950, which is 2,294. On the right hand side is the stock 7970, and that's 2,763. But if I just pop up the overclock results for the 7970, you can see that the score goes up to 3,056. So yet again, pulling in front of the stock 7970. What we're going to do now is move on to 3D Mark Vantage P Scores and see how it fares with that. Right then peeps, on to 3D Mark Vantage P score. On the left, the 7950 at stock is 31,673. On the right, the 7970 at stock is 36,585. Obviously, if we then overclock the 7950, the scores jump up almost 3,000 points to 39,405. So it just goes to show you that, you know, these cards do, you know, you can get a fairly big boost just by doing a bit of overclocking on these. But what I'm going to do now is stop the camera yet again and move on to Vantage X score. Right then guys, on to the final of the 3D Mark tests. So we're on to Vantage X. On the left, the 7950, I do apologise, scores 14,810. On the right, the stock 7970 scores 17,970. 7970, eerie score. But then if we overclock the 7950, it actually pulls in front by about almost 2,000 points. And it goes up to an X score of 19,912. So it's now time, really, for us to leave the benchmarks alone and move on to some gameplay. Right then guys, bit of Battlefield 3 gameplay. Up in the top left hand corner of the screen, before anyone starts to ask, because I'm fed up with being asked this now, it's Afterburner. You can see 99%, that is the GPU usage. I've never seen it actually go to 100. 35% is the fan speed. So yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Then you've got the memory, so 1229 megabits there being used of the video RAM. And then underneath that is the frames per second, which is also backed up on the right hand side of the screen by fraps being run as well. So it's just to give you a good overall view of what's going on with the card, the fan speed, memory usage, everything throughout the bit of gameplay that we'll show you as a benchmark. If you heard me typing there, that's because Mr. Strawberry is doing the gameplay for us today. And yeah, I was just talking to someone on MSN briefly. We've not shown audio in this just because we actually wanted to show the sound of the fan spinning up with the other cards, but with the Sapphire it's so quiet you can't hear it anyway. But as you can see, the fan speed has gone up slightly there to 39%. I still can't hear it. Memory is at 1.3 gigabyte of the total 3 gigabyte available. Here comes a building. Ah! I think that would be a good point to move on to the next game, which is Metro. Okay then peeps, going to move on to Metro. Don't know what happened there, but it did. Anyway, 37% fan speed, 1128 megabytes of memory being used, and you're looking at about, well, 39 is the lowest I've seen the frames per second go to so far. We always play this same bit of Metro just for a bit of continuity. It's a nice short section as well. Shows you fairly healthy frames per second though. Got to remember that Metro is pretty demanding. Always ends in the same way, so before it does that, I'm going to say we'll sign off, and we're going to move on to some Dirt 3. Okay guys, moving on to Dirt 3. This isn't the most stressful of games at all, but we thought we'd show you anyway. This is obviously with the game completely maxed out for all the graphical settings. Mr. Strawberry driving, which is why it's not quite as fluid as when I would do it.
There's nothing wrong with my driving.
If you didn't hear what he said then, he said there's nothing wrong with his driving. All I can say is that I'm glad he's driving on a PC and not on the road.
Well, I don't think I'll go 90 miles an hour on a road.
Why not?
There's a thing called a speed limit.
Yeah, rules are meant to be broken. Anyway, you probably didn't hear all of that, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, 897 megabyte of the video RAM being used. 41% fan speed, and we've not seen it go below 70 frames per second at all. Like I said, this really isn't a stressful game for the card. So not wanting to drag this out because it does get fairly monotonous, as I can imagine for all you guys out there. I'm going to break off of this now and then we'll move on to the conclusion. Right then peeps, time for the Sapphire 7950 conclusion. And as always, award first, gold, without a second thought in my mind. Why? Mainly because this cooler is absolutely awesome on it. The fan only went up to, I think it was 39%, an absolute maximum, even when we were gaming, benchmarking, everything. And it never sounded any louder than when it was actually at stock. The only time that the fan actually really spun up to a point where you noticed it wasn't as quiet was when it was heavily overclocked, and I mean heavily overclocked. And we'd forgotten that we'd left Unigine running for ages, but even then it was quieter than, for argument's sake, the XFX, even when the XFX was at stock. So it's a very, very good cooler. Something that's come up in discussion about it as well is we actually think that this cooler, on this card at least, could be, obviously we've not tested the 7950 version of it, but we think that the cooler design is amazing. It could even be better than like the Twin Frozer 3 versions. It was something that I was talking to Mr. Strawberry about it, because this thing is so quiet, it's unbelievable, and yet it keeps all the temperatures down really, really low as well. I'm massively impressed with it. We also did notice that this actually overclocked further than the other cards that we had. Whether that's because of the silicon lottery and stuff, we don't know, but the trick software is pretty simple to use. You've got the stuff that you need to do, voltage options. One thing I will say is it didn't actually like having the voltage put up too far too soon. You did need to kind of like go up slowly, as in if you put too much voltage through it. I did notice that the benchmarks were actually getting unstable. It wasn't until we knocked the voltages back that we found the sweet spot with it. Yeah, 1150 on the core. I mean, that's more than was allowed with Catalyst Control Center from the stock 7970s. Obviously, there are now ways around that cap on the CCC limit with the 7970 cards, but it's still a very, very healthy overclock on this. And the benchmarks kind of showed it, because obviously you see as I was doing the screenshots and stuff, the it was way ahead of the stock 7970. So it overclocks really well. The temperatures are great. It's quiet. It plays games really well. What more could you ask from it? Do you know what I mean? You've basically got a quiet card that you can overclock and have a play with. It's going to do everything that you're going to ask of it. And like I said, the most important thing with this is it's quiet. For all those quiet freaks out there like me, you're gonna love it. And I honestly do mean love it, because it's just so quiet, so quiet. To the point, I would probably go a step further and say, out of the 7950s I've seen so far, which is the HIS card, the XFX with the twin fan ghost cooler, and this one, I would actually say that the Sapphire is actually my favourite, because it's, like I said, it's the quickest, but it's also the quietest, which is something that doesn't necessarily always come together. So a thoroughly deserving gold award, to be perfectly honest with you. Like I said, this one, I wanted it to stand out a little bit more from the others, but the others were all worth gold as well. I just feel this one deserved something extra as well, because it's that much better than the other ones. But yeah, like I said, I would actually say this is probably my favourite 7950 that I've tested so far. And I'm thoroughly impressed with it. And it's the first Sapphire card that we've done in a while as well. We've done an XFX and a Sapphire this time round, which we've not done for a while. And the XFX was good, but this Sapphire card is definitely better, and it's quite surprised me actually. So yes, congratulations Sapphire, you've got a thoroughly deserved gold award for your 7950 Overclock edition. To be perfectly honest with you, like I said, I wish there was a different award that I had to make it stand out from the other ones that I've done so far. But a big clap definitely deserve the thumbs up, and I'd say it deserves a bit of a wink as well. But for now, at least, because I've got an immense amount of work now to get done to make sure that all these videos and reviews actually make the 5 AM NDA. Thanks, AMD. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.